What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here, just getting things set up. Just gonna pull you guys up on my laptop so I can see what's going on. But how's your Friday night going? I just got back from Windsor, Ontario, was hanging out with my buddy John again from Seeded Developments. You guys are probably pretty familiar with John at this point. Everything looks way smaller. For the first time I got like the camera facing me rather than not, and the aesthetics are just way throwing me off. But yeah, no surprise, John's still crushing it in Windsor. Just checked out actually, shout out to Nish, who's a YouTube fan of mine. He found me through Matt Pichet's YouTube channel, and he was one of the first people to reach out to John. And in fact, now both John, myself, and Nish are in together on buying a rental property in Windsor, Ontario. So really excited by that. We're hoping that it'll close before the Withdrawal Limo Tour, and if it does, we'll give you guys first access, a tour of it on next weekend's Withdrawal Limo Tour. I'm super pumped by it. I think it's going to be a great investment. If you guys remember, if you watched, I think maybe it was the second video that myself and Adam Martin did with John, that property that was right on the waterfront, that's the property that we're buying. So I'm super pumped. I just need to pull you guys up here so I can see. I just saw someone commented, appreciate it. Smash the like button if you just joined, and once I get you guys up, I'll be less distracted. So let's make that happen. Otherwise, one of the things I did want to talk to you guys about today is I want to get your feedback on the Matt McKeever show. Did you enjoy it? What did you think about the length? What did you think about the topics? Not a single person has given me a suggestion for next week's, and I'm going to be shooting next week's tomorrow morning. So I would love to hear, what do you think I should be talking about on that? So I see we got Robert Mormon, who was just asking how he can find a wholesaler in Connecticut. So I think, like a lot of my advice, obviously networking. So find out your local real estate investors, networking events, attend those. Find out if there's an active Bigger Pockets community for Connecticut. Find out if there's an active Bigger Pockets meetup for Connecticut. Those would be the areas I would start. My computer's having a little bit of trouble pulling this up. If you guys are currently getting this, can you just like leave me a comment or something? Just give me some sort of engagement so I know that this is, oh, thank you. So I know this is on the internet. Why is this not working? Well, okay, while my computer thinks about working, yeah, I'm really excited about, I'm just really excited in general, to be honest, guys. A lot of exciting things are currently kind of in the process. There's been a lot of stuff that it feels like we've been setting up the chess pieces for years now, and finally that those machinations, that hard work, that effort feels like it's finally going to pay off. So yeah, just feeling very grateful these days, guys, and a lot of that's due to you, due to the audience that I have on YouTube. So thank you guys very much for that. I really do appreciate it. Really wish this laptop would work. Que sera. So anyways, I see that this is gonna be tough. Why won't you just work? Well, whatever. So I'll get to your comments in a second. Hopefully this reloads. But in the meantime, what's been going on so far? So coming up September 23rd, we got the Withdrawal Limo Tour. If you're interested, I think there's a link in the video description down below. Fingers crossed there is. Obviously Vegas is coming up. Really excited by Vegas. I think we're just about to get to the point of over 50% sold and reserved. So we're over 25% sold now. I think we're actually, I need to update one. So we're either at 28 or 30% officially sold and collected, another about 20% that is reserved but has not been collected. So that's really exciting. You know, getting to the 50% mark is really important because it means that we won't lose all the monies. So that's exciting. But I'm really excited by what's going on in Windsor right now. I'm really excited that I got this opportunity to partner with both a YouTube fan, Nish, as well as John. Turns out Nish actually went to the same university as me, so he's a fellow Guelph Humber alumni, so small world. And yeah, I'm just really excited in general about what's all going on. It just feels like Vegas is going to come together. It feels like there's some great opportunities in Windsor that I'm going to get to be a part of. And this Weibo limo tour is shaping up to be the most successful one we've had so far. Boom! My video's back on. Awesome. So, here we are. Hey, Jeff Weibo in the comment section. Appreciate that. I'm assuming he's not just commenting from down below. So, two tickets currently left at the current price point, Jeff's saying. So Ian was just kind of talking about the state of properties in Windsor. Yeah, like maybe you have that feeling that everything's dilapidated because it's the properties we're showing you, but those are mostly just the properties that John's about to buy. So I don't see it particularly being any more distressed than, say, a random street in London, whether that be in the Old East or, you know, just any neighborhood that's had houses for 100 years. So Jeff's talking from the mansion, that makes sense. So Mohammed just wanted to know about how paying utilities works for rental properties with multiple tenants. So essentially, there's a handful of ways you can approach it. The most common way is going to be what's called inclusive. So all utilities are inclusive of the rental price, and that's where the landlord's going to pay for those, for all the utility costs and charge, in theory, higher rents than they otherwise would if utilities weren't included. Alternatively, you can do things like set a cap where the landlord pays for all utilities, but if it goes over a certain amount, then the tenants are held responsible. It really depends on whether we're talking about, say, a student rental where 5 students are all sharing the same living space and kind of living together, versus, say, a 5-plex where there's 5 completely different people with completely separate separate units and living conditions. So I think that those are probably the factors you need to take in consideration if you're doing utilities included. Obviously, if you have separate meters on your rental units, you don't have to do utilities included. As well, there are options now like sub-metering, and so there's going to be costs associated with sub-metering, and your wiring is going to have to be set up a certain way, but that is another alternative, and that's a way for you to pass on the cost of utilities. And I know one of the big concerns a lot of landlords have, including myself, is with the upcoming legalization October 17th of marijuana in Canada, as well as growing up to 4 plants per household, not per person. There's definitely the risk that tenants with all-inclusive utilities could take advantage of landlords. Now, I'm going to be having a video come out on my YouTube channel sometime either this weekend or early next week that will address that, give you kind of my opinion on it, share with you the research I've done on the subject matter, and just kind of what I've found out about what's going on with marijuana. There is certain strategies we can take to try and defend ourselves from abuses by tenants with all-inclusive utilities. So that's definitely something to take into consideration. I don't have a perfect solution. It's still a gray area. So until there's actual legal cases going forward, it's going to continue to be a gray area, unfortunately. But that being said, it's better safe than sorry. So some of the best practices I mentioned in that video, you guys will definitely want to implement yourselves. As well, I'm planning to, I'll save that for later. But I got plans to try and make all of our lives a bit easier with the upcoming cannabis legalization. Derek was just asking, he's curious what drives me now that I've reached financial freedom, independence, which seems like the end goal. Where am I hoping to be in 5 years? So yeah, that's a great question. What drives me these days, and it's something that actually me and John were talking about in Windsor earlier today, is helping people, paying it forward. So, you know, getting to meet up with Nish today and learning his backstory, where his real estate portfolio currently is. He owns 3 rental properties already himself. But being able to see how we can help aid him by, you know, bringing a much stronger cash flowing property into his portfolio, and how that's going to drastically impact his journey towards financial independence. But even a better example is what's going on with Adam Martin. So if you guys haven't watched the videos I've done with Adam Martin, I highly recommend you go back through the archives and watch them. But if you go really back, like into early January, February, March of this year, you'll see videos that I did with Adam where, you know, he was literally just kind of working as a contractor for me, and I I met him on, I think, the January limo tour of 2018, and now he's bought a property himself. Did it with a vendor take-back mortgage, only 4% down. He's now house hacking it. He's getting $2,200 a month in gross rent while living in one of the rooms with his girlfriend. For free they're living. They're actually getting paid to live in that property. So that property almost meets the 1% rule with them taking one of the bedrooms for personal use. And so just to see him turn his financial life around so dramatically in such a short period of time, I find that extremely gratifying. As well, it's you guys reaching out to me with the DMs on Facebook and Instagram and comments on YouTube saying how I've helped somehow impact your journey, somehow impacted your financial independence journey. That means a lot to me. My channel, I've been doing this for over 2 years now, so there are some of you that are reaching out being, hey, I've been watching your channel, watching your story, watching your journey for 2 years, Matt, and because of that, I've done X, Y, and now my life is on this completely different trajectory. I'm planning to retire much early, all that great stuff. As well, recently I just shot a video with Angie, who's a London on Fire member, and again, another great story where she listened to the podcast that Kellen and myself did with our buddy Dan Warren, the student rental expert here in London, Ontario, and she's been learning about real estate since January of this year. She's closed on 3 properties. She's now starting to think about her long-term financial journey and thinking about how many years away she is from retirement, when before kind of discovering the podcast, discovering kind of what we're all up to here with London on Fire, she was on a completely different trajectory. So it's stories like that that just mean so much to me, because yeah, that's one of the reasons why I spend all the time, money, and effort making these YouTube videos, is just to try and pay it forward. And it was one of my frustrations when I first discovered the idea of investing in real estate, discovered the idea of financial independence, was that there just wasn't enough real life examples. And a lot of the examples I found, it'd maybe be dated information, outside of like Jacob Lund Fisker and Mr. Money Mustache. Obviously those two were great real life examples that really shared all the details of their lives. But outside of that, I just found it really a lack of information, a lack of people sharing their stories. So that's why I started YouTube, was to share my story in the hopes of helping other people. And so also being able to showcase different people's stories here on my YouTube channel is very meaningful. I get a lot of personal gratification from it. Outside of that, planning these events like OREC. OREC, honestly, so if you guys are new to my channel, you're not familiar with what it is, myself and Jeff Weibo hosted the Ontario Real Estate Conference here in London, Ontario, the last weekend in May. And so we planned that in less than 90 days, and we ended up having like over 250 people in attendance. It was probably the most gratifying experience of my entire life. It was so meaningful. Based on the reception I got and the feedback I got, it seemed like we impacted a lot of people's lives. We made a huge difference, and that's just really gratifying. It's just really meaningful to me to know that I'm having that sort of impact on people. So it's kind of what I'm up to these days. It's kind of what I'm focused on, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm enjoying it. Otherwise, what else is going on? Also, don't be afraid to smash. Man, when did you hit the dislike button already? I don't understand. I guess maybe I should take it as a compliment that I have someone that immediately dislikes almost all my videos now, but my skin's still too paper thin for that. So anyways, John Bender wants to know, can you talk about refinancing to get from property number 1 to number 2? Thanks. Yeah, sure. So, refinancing from property 1 to property 2, essentially, a lot of people, the limiting factor for us as real estate investors is our initial capital to invest. Most of us are only going to be able to get 80% loan to values, which means we're going to need to come up with the 20% down to buy that property. And so let's say you saved up, and you maybe took you a couple of years to save up that 20% down on the investment property. You buy the property, it starts cash flowing, it all executes according to plan, but now you might have to take a couple more years to save up your money in order to buy the next property. And that's very frustrating. So a lot of us are focused on ways or strategies to increase the velocity of our money. How quickly can we turn it over so we can acquire more assets, so we can maximize our leverage? And the ideal hopes that we can maximize our return, maximize our cash flow, so we can reach financial independence or whatever our goal is with real estate investing as fast as possible. So refinancing becomes a natural solution for most of us. Ideally, you're going to have a well-executed plan like the BRRRR investment strategy. And so the BRRRR investment strategy is where we buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. I've done a ton of videos on that, so I'm not going to get deep into those details. But essentially, in a perfect world, if you're in a market like mine, you're going to want to refinance. And one of the best indicators of what you can refinance for is market comps, as well as looking at what your current cash flow or return on investment is. And those are kind of going to be the benchmarks that an appraiser is going to use in order to determine what valuation they'll give your property. So in order to go buy the next property, go from property 1 to property number 2, we're going to need to free up that 20% in equity. So I highly recommend you consider things like strategic renovations. Once you've executed on those strategic renovations, increase your gross rent so you can increase your return. That should make it more palatable for the appraiser to give you a higher valuation. One of the important things is don't leave it up to chance. Put as much effort into getting the appraisal you want as possible. So talk to your tenants before the appraisal happens. Make sure they tidy up. Make sure you walk through the property before you bring an appraiser through there. Make sure that you have your own comps that you can present to the appraiser so you can build the narrative. Oftentimes an appraiser will ask you, literally, what are you trying to get this property appraised for? And if you say $400,000 and that's the end of the conversation, you're less likely going to get that $400,000 than if you're like, well, I think it's $400,000 because the property across the street sold for $410,000 and the property down the street sold for $350,000, but it has one less bathroom and it's a single story, mine's 2 stories, or mine has 1,000 square feet extra living space because it's a bungalow and has a full basement. Things like that. So really building up that narrative to ensure you get the valuation you want on that appraisal, because that's the only way you're going to be able to repeat the process. And that's the most important part of the BRRRR investment strategy. Appreciate the 5 of you that smashed the like button in between my complaint there. Michael says, hi, what's up, Michael? So Ian's asking, how are you making offers to off-market properties in Windsor? Where do you lead gen and how do you prepare a strategy for the property before being in it? Like room layout and how much to rent them. So, local experts is how I'm doing it. So I'm relying on John to find me the off-market deals. Outside of that, myself and Adam Martin use other strategies to find motivated sellers. We buy houses as an FYI. We do the flyer campaigns. I network a ton. Do you even network, bro? Because very few people can touch what me and Jeff do on a networking scale. And there's a ton of value from that, just meeting tons of investors. Literally, a lot of the opportunities come to me just because people know me as the real estate guy. They know me as their real estate friend. And so when a real estate opportunity or just anything real estate related comes up, they naturally reach out to their real estate friend. So just being omnipresent, making sure people are aware of what you're looking for and trying to incentivize them by offering, say, finder's fees, by offering, a $500 or $1,000 finder's fee if they introduce you to someone and you end up buying the house, things like that. We do magnets. We essentially will try door knock. Adam Martin's been out door knocking recently because our flyers haven't been getting the same reception as they used to. Maybe it's timing, maybe it's bad luck, who knows, but we're going to constantly be pivoting our strategies because at the end of the day, we're focused on getting results. And so either put in the time yourself to find those private deals or network and build up a reliable network of people that can find you those private deals. That would be my suggestion. Sergio, I think I answered your question then, if you had the same question as Derek. And so, for those of you that maybe are wondering, once you get a financial independence, what do you do if, say, you don't want to be Matt and have a YouTube channel? I think, at first, I've talked about the dark side of financial independence on my YouTube channel before. I recommend you guys check it out if you're getting close to financial independence and you're not sure what to do with your life, or if you currently are FIRE or you're taking a mini retirement or something like that and you feel a little adrift. I think that's natural to begin with at first. A lot of us build up a huge amount of our self-identity through our employment, through our job. And so the moment you leave that, that's very impactful for a lot of us on, on our self-identity and what we're going to do with our future. So, obviously there's things like different charities and organizations you can give your time or money to, spending more time with family. Just one of the things I do a lot now is like aligning multiple goals that I might not otherwise be able to. So, I notice I don't spend enough time necessarily with my sister and my niece and nephew. So why not try and bring my sister into my ecosystem, or why not have her learn about the business from me? Why not try and get her into real estate investing and get her on a more stable financial footing? So that's one of like my personal goals that I'm working on, just because it's one of those like win-win-win. It's all the wins in my opinion. So, there's opportunities like that, but at the same time, there's nothing wrong with giving yourself some time to decompress. I've talked about on my YouTube, I've talked about on this channel before, where I've spent, a month playing video games, getting high and drinking. And, I found that didn't lead to a lot of personal satisfaction or personal growth. But at the same time, it was an interesting experiment. It was fun at the time. And so, like, for me, life's just all a giant journey. It's just about acquiring as many experiences and lessons as possible. And so one of the ways that I'm focused on acquiring those lessons or experiences is by making YouTube videos, by trying to keep myself accountable, by doing crazy challenges like hosting Vegas events, simply to see whether we can pull it off, to see whether we'll enjoy it, to see whether we can provide value to people. Outside of that, I don't know. It's one of those things where once you have every option, it can also still feel limiting in a way, or you can still feel like a certain analysis paralysis towards it. So financial independence isn't something you should flippantly approach. It definitely is something that I think people can find themselves rudderless with. And I know I'm not the first vlogger or the first blogger or person to discuss this subject matter. I'm sure I won't be the last. So there's lots of great threads on Missing My Mustache and Early Retirement Extreme, also exploring these themes. So if that's something that you want to dig deeper into and my answers aren't satisfying, I would highly recommend checking out those resources. So again, that's Mr. My Mustache's forums or Early Retirement Extreme's forums. A quick Google should be able to find that. Yes, Jeff was saying this year's OREC will be at the end of April. Really excited by it. I think we're hoping it's just going to be bigger, better, and I think we had such an amazing lineup of speakers last year, and yet we've only continued to grow our network, grow our experience. So I'm really excited to present the new crop and a bunch of our old favorites at this year's OREC. So I'm sure it'll come to no surprise. I intend to get John from Seeded Developments to talk this year about the Windsor market, about what he's doing with student rentals. But at the same time, I still want to bring back all the amazing speakers we had from last year. There were so many great ones. And that being said, I think there was amazing talks, amazing value given by the speakers, and yet I think the most valuable thing was still just the pure networking. And that's why we made OREC a 2-day event. It's the reason I'm making Vegas a 2-day event. Is it's important that you get an opportunity to really build these relationships with individuals, because those relationships will last you a lifetime. And I really do believe, guys, your net worth is directly impacted by your network. And the best way to do that is in real life networking. I know every now and then some of you will come at me and chirp me and say like, man, I'm networking so much more effectively online than I am IRL, that like networking in real life is a waste of time, all that stuff. And if that's honestly been your experiences, I think you're doing it wrong. I think you're networking with the wrong people, because there definitely is tons of great opportunities. And I might need to get a charger soon because my cell phone's going to die. I did not plan this appropriately. So Derek's just asking, from your experience when you had a full-time job and were house hacking, what did you find was the ideal save rate that was realistic and manageable? So, everyone's situation is going to be slightly different, but if you're really focused on trying to retire as fast as possible, I would say that getting like house hacking to the point where you can live for free, like I said Adam Martin's doing, or getting paid to live in your own rental property while making the mortgage payment, that's ideal. Simply because the average person, the average Canadian, if we look at them, they're spending between 30 and 40% of their income on shelter. So that's utilities, mortgage payment, rent payment, whatever. And if you can find a way to live for free, you can immediately save 30 to 40%. And then the average person or the slightly above average person saving like 10, 15% of their income. So then you take that and add on, boom, you're immediately saving 50% of your income. And the only real changes you've made to your lifestyle is house hacking. And house hacking in a manner that allows you to live for free. And that's just so powerful. So really getting above that 50% save rate, I think, is important. I've done some videos documenting the impact your savings rate has on your retirement. Because, essentially, if you have a 50% save rate, regardless of what your return on investment is on that property or on that whatever you're investing your savings in, it essentially means for every year you work, you save a year's worth of work. And we know you need to save up about 25 years of life expenses if you want to meet the 4% safe withdrawal rate. So, you need to save up 300 months worth of savings. So essentially you would need to work for 300 months at that 50% savings rate, assuming that your money's not earning you any return or it's only keeping up with inflation, assuming that you're not investing in assets that generate cash flow like, say, real estate. So definitely you want to get above that 50% save rate if your goal is to reach financial independence, retire early. Beyond that, I really tried to get it 75% and above. And I would highly recommend you guys, if your goal is to try and retire as fast as possible, if your goal is to retire in 5 years or less, I think one of the surest recipes for success is to save 75% or more of your income. It definitely can be done. It definitely, you're gonna have to be at least slightly unconventional in your approach when doing it. But again, I've done it, Michael Rosart's done it. There's a ton of people actually in my network that are doing it. And the number one key to success seems to be house hacking or finding a way to live for free. So that would be the thing I would always focus on. Hey man, what's up? Who in this chat already is in for Vegas? Yeah, so Jeff's just kind of promoting Vegas. Really excited about the Vegas stuff. If you guys aren't familiar with what it's about, I understand why. We haven't been, you can't just go to a website and buy your ticket for Vegas, and that's not by accident. I want to get to know you. Jeff wants to get to know you. So essentially, the way you get your Vegas ticket is by DMing myself or Jeff and us having at least a bit of a conversation. What I've been doing is pretty much jumping on a phone call with everyone that wants to talk to me about Vegas, because I really want to make sure we're getting the right people. And so far, I think we've done a great job of getting the right people. So, for example, on last week's live show that me and Jeff did on Friday night, Chandler was in the comment sections, and I was chatting with Chandler a bit. He's crushing it. He's got a ton of units. Anyways, it turns out he's going to be the perfect person to come to Vegas. He's done door-to-door sales. He helps teach people door-to-door sales and door-to-door sales techniques, which is amazing if you want to become a wholesaler or a private deal aficionado. If you just want to become the real estate investor that brings the deal and find money partners, you need to be able to talk to people. You need to be able to negotiate with them. And one of the best ways that we found to do that in our market is through door knocking. And even if you're using flyers or bandit signs, you're still at some point probably going to have to sit down at the kitchen table with them and ink that deal. I literally have a blank purchase and sale agreement right here, because tomorrow morning I'm going to shoot a video on how to fill one of these out, because a bunch of you guys have been hitting me up about that. And yeah, so like Chandler's just an example of one of the amazing people that's going to be coming to Vegas. Otherwise, the regular cast of characters, myself, Jeff Weibel, Graham Steffen, who I know a lot of you guys follow on YouTube, recently just hit over 200,000 subs. Our buddy Matt Pichet, the Fruitful Investor, kind of a joint venture specialist. I think Meet Kevin's going to be able to make an appearance, so excited for that. We also have another guy, I'm not going to mention his name right now, but he's got a very influential YouTube channel. He's got over 2.7 million subscribers. He's going to come out. He's going to give a talk about his YouTube strategies and his social media strategies. Essentially, what Vegas is about, it's about highlighting all of our attendees. So yes, we're going to have keynote speakers. Yes, we're going to have specific breakout sessions on all kinds of useful topics. Things like how to grow your influence. As well, if you're an influencer or an aspiring influencer, we're going to talk about how we've set up our e-products, how we set up our Teachable courses, kind of how we approach that stuff. Hopefully we can get Graham Steffen to share some of his experiences. But we're going to have Chandler talk about knocking on doors and things like that. But even more so than that, it's about highlighting what you guys are up to, highlighting what you're crushing it as. And so starting next week, you're going to start to see every attendee to Vegas is making like a 3 to 5 minute-ish bio video, kind of discussing what they're up to, who they are, and why they're coming to Vegas. And I'm going to start showcasing that on my YouTube channel simply so you guys get a better idea of who's actually coming and what's the value. Because, I understand why some people are skeptical at first when they're like, networking's the most valuable thing. Oh, the only way I get value is if I take value, the only way I'm going to get value from this event is if I network really hard, and you're saying that if I don't get value from this event, it's essentially my fault. In my opinion, it kind of is. But I understand how that can maybe throw the occasional BS detector off. So I essentially just want to show you, everyone that's coming to Vegas, you make the decision whether Vegas is right for you or not. As well, it kind of gives some free promotion to the people that are coming to Vegas. So someone like Chandler, who's trying to grow a YouTube channel, it's great promotion for him. So yeah, that's kind of a little random update about Vegas. So if you guys want to learn more, slide into my or Jeff Weibel's DMs. Oh, I see we got mid-CPA financial therapy. He's definitely coming out. I think he was either number 1 or number 2. I think Phil Weibel was number 1 to come. Mitt was number 2, which was awesome. Hey, what's up, Stephen Hickey? Have you bought that fourplex yet, or was it a triplex? You were looking at that ridiculously cash flowing property. I'd like to hear whether you ended up putting an offer in on it, whether anything came of it. John Bender's asking, what do you want to do when you have so much money that money doesn't matter? Yeah, and so that's a good topic for us to discuss on, because, I retired at a point where I knew I could sustain my current lifestyle, essentially indefinitely based off of my real estate investments. That doesn't mean that money is no issue to me. It simply means that money's not a day-to-day concern, if that makes sense. So when me and Jeff take on crazy random projects, like say spending $5,000 a month on cameramen and editors, that still does impact my bottom line. That definitely still does impact my cash flow. So it's not that I have this such ridiculous excesses of wealth that I could just go out and buy a Lambo in cash every day of the week, because I definitely could not do that. But it means that anything that's extremely important to me, I can probably figure out a way to acquire it. And again, that's to me why financial independence, retire early, or FIREpreneurship, as I've recently started kind of calling it, why that's the perfect term for me, because it's about conscious consumption. So, is the idea of a private jet interesting? Is the idea of, the finer things in life interesting? Yeah, absolutely. They're at least tempting, to say the least. However, at the same time, that's not critical or core to my enjoyment of life, or kind of who I am, or my core values. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, definitely, I know some people get the idea that I'm ridiculously wealthy. Not the case. Jeff Weibel and a bunch of my friends love to make fun of my car. Yes, I do actually still have a car as well. I'm really lazy, guys. Maybe I'll drop it. But yeah, to me, it's just an A to B tool. So to spend a lot of money on A to B tool just doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit with my core values. So some people may be like, nah, you're not even retired if you can't buy a Lambo. Yeah, agree to disagree. So what else is, have you thought about investing across the border in Detroit? Were you listening in on my conversations earlier today, Michael? Because we were talking about that earlier today in Windsor. So yes, it's definitely on my radar. It definitely seems interesting under the right circumstances. I definitely haven't done enough research on the subject matter yet though, so I need to learn a lot more or find a local expert before I dive in. But I think in the next month, I'm planning to shoot some videos in Detroit, so stay tuned for that. That's not to say that I'll be buying in Detroit immediately or anything, but it is on my radar. I'm definitely enticed by it, and yeah. Otherwise, I didn't really mention at the start of the show, but I am cooking my supper right now because I was in Windsor all day today, so I might have to go check on that. But I just kind of want to do a random update video for you guys. I got another 5 minutes, and then I probably should go. So what should we do for the next 5 minutes? Any questions? Any comments? What did you guys think of the Matt McKeever show? Did you enjoy that? Would you like to see more of that content? Because I guess right now, one of my fears with what I'm doing with my YouTube channel is that, you guys essentially literally just kind of experience whatever I'm experiencing. So right now, I'm binging on building a relationship with John from Seeded Developments. So that's a lot of what I'm doing with my time. So I end up creating a ton of YouTube videos about him. But like, it's always very inconsistent, you know, because like maybe a month from now, I'll meet someone that's crushing in Hamilton, and all of a sudden I'll spend a month with them in Hamilton. Do you guys enjoy kind of that pacing where it's kind of random, you know, it's really what's ever going on, or would you like a bit more of a systematic approach? Because most YouTubers seem to go with a much more systematic approach. And that's kind of my thought by at least creating some consistent, regular content. So that's kind of my logic on it. So I would definitely like to learn. Mid saying I should discuss the MGK and Eminem diss track. I love rap. I love rap disses. I love the beef that's been going on with MGK, Eminem, and G-Eazy. But I don't know if that's what I want the Matt McKeever show to be about, but I almost kind of want to have a spin-off show where I can just talk about stupid shit with you guys, because I would love to talk about that stupid shit with you guys. Yeah. Oh yeah, and Kanye's recent video, like I think, was that one of the biggest trolling things ever? To have like Adele, Spike Lee direct it, and Kanye released this music video when a bunch of people are expecting a music video for a different song, and then they just dropped this random thing. Because yeah, that was crazy. But I really did like, Eminem feels like he's back to old Eminem. MGK, I think MGK's Rap Devil was really well done. And recently Eminem just came out with a second response to it. I forget what it was called though. But yeah, I could listen to that shit all day. It gets me so motivated. Like, I don't know, it's just, there's something about rap musicians in particular that, regardless of whether they truly are self-made or not, a lot of what they rap about is the struggle, the hustle, the grind, the coming from nothing. And I think a lot of us entrepreneurs, a lot of us real estate investors that are either self-made or aspire to become self-made, it really resonates with us, that hustle. You know, I've always loved G-Eazy's one song, Random, that's essentially like young, rich, and handsome, this shit is not random. And, you know, when you break down a lot of these rap lyrics from, in my opinion, some of the better rappers, you realize that like they're definitely talking about putting in the work. They're talking about touring every day. They're talking about like going to concerts every day. They're doing their shit. So got a question. Live in Ottawa, houses close up to the university for $600K with 4 bedrooms. You can maybe get $700 to $800 per room. You'll barely cover the mortgage. Do you think it's worth it not to have cash flow? So, you know, student rentals in Windsor, sounds like they don't make financial sense. So, you know, if your goal of investing is to get cash flow, it sounds like a terrible investment. My goal as an investor is cash flow first. It's the same thing that John's doing in Windsor. It's the same thing the other John's doing in Owen Sound. It's the same thing most of us investors in London, Ontario are doing. So, you know, chasing appreciation, in theory, that is an investment strategy. I just think it's a very risky strategy, particularly when we've had such a hot bull market for such an extended period of time. That being said, Ottawa does sound like a very interesting market. All right, well, I got 10% battery life here, guys, so this definitely isn't going to last much longer, but that's okay because I think my food's ready anyways. So, yeah. Based on what you're telling me about the Ottawa student rental market, doesn't seem to make sense to me. That would be a pass based on my investing criteria. It may work for another investor, but seeing how you could literally buy a house with twice as many bedrooms that rent for almost the same amount in Windsor, Ontario, I'd have a hard time not chasing that cash flow personally. Quest to Fire, I'm glad you enjoyed the V-Mask. Remember the 5th of November? The gunpowder treason and plot? Anyways, yeah. Okay, my camera's going, or this cell phone's gonna die. I appreciate you guys. Smash the like button if you enjoyed this video. Let me know, even after watching this video, if there's something you want me to talk about on the Matt McKeever show, because I do want that show to become a two-way conversation with you guys. It is really important to me. Otherwise, smash the like button. I hope to see you guys at the Weibel Limo Tour in Windsor next Sunday. Hope to see you guys come down to Vegas, those of you that can make it. And yeah, just remember, make a mighty team sport. There's more than enough money in this world for us to all make it. But if you're not saving it, I mean, like, what's the point, guys? Thanks. Bye.